The American Basketball Association is the largest pro league in the world. Some great opportunities for team ownership are available, and the cost may surprise you. If you've ever thought about team ownership in a pro league, give us the opportunity to help make it a reality. Reach out to us for more info. For USA teams at www.abaliveaction.com. In Australia, go to www.abaleagueaustralia.com.
Welcome to Cut and Mix. I'm Vanessa Hundley, aka DJ Audioprism, coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia. I am back with my favorite segment of my newfound 2020 movements into the entertainment sphere. And this is Cut and Mix, where we do the interviews with interesting people from all over the world. Today, I am joined by Claudia Valentine, an adult entertainment performer with several notable films under her belt, who is coming to us live from Los Angeles, California. Hi, Claudia. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
All right, so you have been in the adult film industry for a little while, but you obviously didn't start there. You had a bit of a trajectory. There's some other interviews out there that are really well done that, you kind of talk about your earlier years, which you did make it a point to say in some of your interviews that you came from, a pretty normal background and a pretty normal upbringing. And then you went to college and you were getting ready. You just graduated from college. And that's kind of where we're going to pick up your story, because as you graduate from college, you were part of that last wave, because now we're going through a new wave of this, of students who graduated into the real world with a recession. This would have been at the early 2000s, so just after 9/11. So we had a kind of a countrywide mental crisis of sorts going on. And then we also had a recession going on at the same time. So paint us a picture of what it was like for you as you were graduating and you were getting ready to step out and try to figure out what you were going to do with your adult life.
Well, I worked with a company, and I was doing okay. I just started because I just graduated college, and I couldn't pay the rent. I kicked out a boyfriend, and at the same time, I had a roommate who moved in, and she worked at a strip club, and I was at wit's end. I didn't want to go back and work at a grocery store where I had worked previously. So I went into cocktail waitress at the strip club, and I'd never even really worked. I don't think I remember ever walking into a strip club before. And here I was cocktail waitressing. And my first day, I was staring at boobs, and I was like, "Oh my God, am I staring?" And it was funny to look back, but I felt uncomfortable, but only because I felt like I was staring like rude, like, "Oh my God, am I deer in headlights?" But I graduated right before 9/11, like literally right before 9/11. And I was going to go to New York to go work. And I literally had a breakdown. So I didn't really put all my eggs in one basket, but I kind of did, because I was going to go to New York and work. I had a job. I had some friends that were going to help set me up and stuff like that. And after the 9/11 hit, it's just one of those things that it got screwed up. But the strip club, it was fun. It was like kind of exploring your sexuality or being a woman, just more or less, because of you grow up and you're just questioning, like, what, everything you learned from your friends. And then, as you grow up, you like, oh my God, nudity, sexuality, it was kind of fun. You just knew girls than you normally would have hung out with, and it was interesting. And so I just kind of embraced it. And before you knew it, I was there. Like, I graduated, so 2002 to 2008. I was there like 6 years. And I had boyfriends that didn't even believe that I graduated college, because they're like, "Why are you still here?" But I mean, it was really good money. I bought a condo. I had a big SUV, like a nice luxury brand. And I had everything. I had a new boyfriend that I had for like 4 years. So what's wrong with stripping? I mean, I had better life than my friends who had a normal life. So I just stuck there, and then I took a little bit of a break, and I came back 2010, and I still, up until a couple of years ago, I still danced in Vegas. I would go out there and stuff like that. So I think back that I'm more of a ex-stripper than sometimes a porn star.
But yeah, that can kind of, I imagine, go a little bit hand in hand. How do you feel like the area where you got caught up in the lifestyle aspect of it? Because we all know, any of us that have ever been in hospitality or entertainment, we know that it's a very different lifestyle. You're often waking up at very different times than the normal 9 to 5 kind of people. You're out really late. Your networking doesn't take place around a board table. Your networking takes place at 2 a.m. at some hot club, or
I would work day shifts. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I would work day shifts.
Okay.
There's one club that I worked at a lot. It was a lot of businessmen would come in for lunch. And it was during that time where it was normal to go to a strip club and have a meeting, have a lunch meeting, take your coworkers, like, hey, let's go to the strip club. It was in a different state, and they do that. And it was, the economy was booming, so there was a lot of sales, like, of realtors and mortgage people that had money to spend, and drove 3 different vehicles. And so I would work. I was one of the first people to go into work during the day because you would get free house. And so my goal was to get in by 10:30 a.m. So I'd be there to start at 11 or noon or one of those things. And I would get off work at 5 or 6. And then we would go hang out with the girls, and we'd be like, hey, who do we want to buy us dinner? So we would call up some guy or take some guy at the club, and we'd go to a fancy dinner somewhere, like, I don't know, like Mastro's or just any of the nice ones that anybody would go to that had a lot of money. So it was caught up in it was like more of a high glam rock and roll lifestyle. So
yeah.
It wasn't until later that it was 2 a.m. that I'd actually work a double shift, because I'd work at one club and then I'd work in another one. I still had that sort of same mentality, work hard, even though I was a stripper.
I think that mentality in any industry can get you very hard, because you can choose to approach any industry as a professional or as an amateur. And if you're, approaching on an amateur level, you're just going to think about it by night. And if you're by the night, and if you're thinking about it on a professional level, you're looking ahead. And with you looking ahead, eventually meant you left the state that you were performing as a stripper in, and you moved out to California. Now, did you do that as kind of a lateral move, or you were going to continue stripping, or were you looking to advance in a different industry?
I went back to school. I went back to school for fashion. I don't know why I didn't go and just get my master's degree or something, but I figured if I wasn't being successful at, like, using my master or my bachelor's degree, I wasn't going to be a better employee by having a master's. So I kind of just was like trying to like use it in accordance. Like, I wanted to do action sport apparel. So I went to fashion for doing that, because I liked snowboarding and so forth. And then I was used to the money, and my money was running out. So that's how I got into porn. But I still would go to Vegas from California, because the laws in California suck and you don't make any money. And it's so weird to say that that I was a stripper, but I was topless. I was always wearing a thong. So no matter how small that thong was, I wore a thong. And I just wasn't comfortable with the nudity. I still think that I don't want to run around naked, even though I do porn. Mm-hmm. I feel like a thong or underwear is like protective of my jewels.
I mean, I could actually see that for sure.
My boobs, I don't care. Like, they're boobs.
Yeah, they come in all shapes and sizes. All right. So earlier, when you mentioned that you made it to the point where you were considering porn, you actually got into the industry by answering a Craigslist ad. And so, you know, of course, like the other documentaries and such that we've seen, sometimes the Craigslist ads can be a little misleading and they're like, you know, models wanted. And then sometimes they're obviously more forthright. And so what was your Craigslist experience getting you involved into the actual porn side of it?
Well, it wasn't misleading or anything. It was like a different one. Like I looked at those two and I knew what they were. They were, I knew kind of knew where they were going, but the one that I had answered was, it was like almost, it sounded like a documentary. Like it was for couples, for lovemaking. It was more softcore. It was like, it wasn't hardcore. But he had sent me I could go to a link and see a copy of a movie that he did. And it was for couples. It was just not hardcore. So I kind of knew, and I took baby steps if I was ever to be doing it, because I did see those model ones and I did talk to them, and they would have me come up to LA because I lived in another part of California at the time. And they would bring me in. They were talking about bringing me into LA. I had a dog. I wouldn't have been able to bring my dog, or I'd have to get my own hotel room. But they would have me do like 5 movies within a couple of days while I'm up here. And I thought that was a lot. That would be too much, like 5 movies within a couple of days. That's like a lot of sex. And I just wasn't ready for that. So
Yeah.
I did the couples one. And once I was comfortable with that, I even got an agent after I did a couple movies, and it was a woman. So I was very comfortable with what she was, smaller baby stuff.
So now that by this point, we're looking at the late 2000s-ish, give or take, right around.
Yeah, I think it was 2008. So I'm 34, just turned 34, and I did it almost like at the end of July on my 30th birthday. So 14 years ago, like, I don't know what the math is, 14 years ago from now.
So it's like, yeah, a little bit of experience at this point. So back in 2008, we were just starting to see the advent of large scale video platforms like YouTube and stuff, which is so weird to say, because now at this point we feel like a lot of these big social media platforms have been around forever, and we have to realize they were just starting to get big basically right around the time that even Facebook had only been, maybe it was just start. No, they're 2009, I think, is when I signed up for Facebook. So
it was not even, I don't think it was even MySpace.
MySpace was around.
MySpace, and creating my top 5 when I was in porn and in LA. So had to be the 5 porn stars that could help me get work, that were also my friends. It was just.
So it was a good networking tool for you. I was about to ask how much any of that technology featured in for you personally when you were making the transition from being a stripper into going into porn.
Well, I had friends that kind of were. You are your own company. You are so it was kind of a hard life of trying to leave your real name to being your porn name, and that you were on 24 hours a day. Like you basically I had to be Claudia 24 hours a day. And it was fun at first, but then you get to where you're trying to draw the line between who is who. Like, am I this person or am I this person? And you kind of get a little warped sense of whatever, you're just who you are. For porn, it was also, my personality is larger than life. You're not the normal person, so, but what was the social media?
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like a lot of, you had to do your advertising, you have to do your marketing. I had a PR person that I worked with, and he did a lot of my social media for me. So I was doing it correctly, and like I wasn't doing it like opinionated. It would do it more of a, bias.
More of a product versus opinion.
Yeah, I'd be like, I didn't do it. Like my PR guy did. So
What did they call
it
that?
would be correct editing, like the flyers and stuff like that. Like it would have like good pictures and fonts and good stories, and it was good.
Because you did bring up a very interesting point, is that, it is acting. And when you're, get into the professional side of it, there's a lot of the same professional considerations that you explore on set as you would on any other movie set. But unlike a lot of actors and other, and other acting industries where they're constantly switching characters, you are your character. So I can see how that would be very difficult to separate sometimes if you're always just that one character over a number of years too. Um,
Well, it just gets in the way of having like relationships. Like, who are you really?
mhm.
So that's where it kind of like got warped a little bit. It's you're like, no, I'm me.
Yeah.
Sometimes partners don't always want to be with that crazy and obnoxious person that you are there. Not that you're like trying to make love, but you're like, when you're making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you don't want to be argumentative.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. Oh my goodness. Looking at it, from the professional aspect, as you started doing more productions, I imagine in the beginning they were probably smaller productions that, that got larger over time, or as you moved more into the mainstream, how did it develop with your comfort level?
Well, once I decided to do it, I was coming up to LA often. Like I did a lot more. Like so once I got my feet wet, I jumped in. Um, and then I eventually just moved to LA because the gas prices, and I drove an SUV. The gas prices were $5 a gallon, so I just came up here. But I hadn't problem. They didn't have any problem. I didn't do really baby steps. There's not really. Once you get into porn, you're into porn, and you can't really take it back. So it was companies that maybe aren't around anymore because around the same time as the recession was going, it hit. Also, there was a lot of stealing on the internet, and so all the companies started closing down. Like when I first got into the industry, we almost had booklets that were like this big. I mean, they were only like small, like a half telephone book, but it had all the companies you could call, where there were, you could go and do ghosties. You could go to this company, and now there's not that very many. I mean, not even now. I mean, now they're in different states and they don't even have them. But they used to have companies where you could go to the office. You would get a book with where you could go pick up your DVDs, like the main warehouse, and like it was kind of a family sort of thing. Like once you get in, it was smaller. The roster of girls were definitely a lot smaller. They didn't have very many agents, maybe like 4 agencies that had maybe 60 girls. That was so that, so a lot of girls did live out of the area, but if you have like 4 companies with 60 girls, that's not a lot of girls.
No, it's not. And that brings up something interesting that you had brought up in a couple of your interviews before, was the typecasting aspect of the industry, how you tend to, have certain personalities ascribed to your character, as it were. So do you feel like you have that you personally had a lot of autonomy over how you established your persona, or do you feel like you either asked for or had a lot of input from agents or studios that helped guide that persona?
Well, it really kind of goes hand in hand, and you can't do one without the other.
Okay.
So you have a little bit of yourself and like how much of a go-getter you are, but the go-getter in you is, are you willing to sleep with directors? Because that, it's kind of a slutty life, so if you really want that DVD cover, and you might have to sleep with a director, and he might not be hot, but he also might be hot. There, I remember, it sounds so wrong, but like back then, I had an agent that had me want to go see a ghostie at this director, and they ask you to get naked because they want you to see, but sometimes you're just in a thong or whatever, but they want to see you naked because you're going to be in a box cover. They want to see how pretty you are, how your boobs fall, your butt falls, how pretty is your vagine. Like they want to know what it looks like. And there was a term they called it puffy. I don't know if I'm allowed to say words. So
Yeah.
called it puffy. They wanted to see a puffy pussy. So, he like just stuck his in me. I mean, I was just like flabbergasted. I mean, if there was definitely whatever, but you just kind of like, and that was fun. But you don't really, I guess now you're like, oh, date rape, that was fun.
I was going to say, I mean, we've seen a lot with the whole Me Too movement over the last couple of years, and obviously situations that you just described would have a lot of people going, "Oh my God, how was he not arrested? How was he not this?"
But I know, it's just the same thing. If you want to get ahead, you have to, and it's really hard to draw the line between, because it's sex. But these guys are also good looking, and you hear about it, and you're like, oh, thanks, agent. You're sending me on a freaking ghosty by myself to this like porn director that you know is going to happen, or you're just like, I mean, you could honestly say no or whatever, but you're just kind of like, okay, this is what it is, and so sometimes between drawing the line of who you are and what you want, it kind of gets muddled. And sometimes I like take a back seat so much because I'm more like, I've been there, I've done this, I've been doing this for 14 years. I know what's expected if I want to go ahead, and I really don't want to be there. Like where I was, I mean, I don't have a problem with doing porn, but it's exhausting sometimes. So I was, so it gets, where do you want to go? What do you want? Like, I'm not good at rehearsing lines. They give you the lines. They used to only give you the lines like as when you come onto set and you're in makeup. So how are you supposed to remember all these lines when you're in makeup? You have a coworker, like a guy or girls that are talking to you, trying to get comfortable to have sex with you, and here you are trying to memorize lines. Yeah. So I was good at that. So they do a lot of talking that is scripted. And they want you to be like feisty or like the schoolgirl, or and so your persona is kind of relatable. Like, you get these girls and there's their character, but a lot of them are just, it's like Halloween. Are you the nurse, this slutty nurse? Or are you the slutty, alligator tamer or something? But they're all slutty. So it's the slutty girl next door or something like that, or the slutty cheerleader. And when I always had problems too when I first got in. I had braces. I was a 30-year-old MILF with braces that have never looked my age. So, what was I going to do? Take out my braces? I mean, they were almost going to be off soon anyway. So I was like, just ignore me. Ignore my braces. But they really put me in yeah, they put you in a weird classification because there's not very many girls that were 30. Mm-hmm. So they would definitely put me in the MILF category because they didn't have very many MILFs. There was probably like 3 or 4 back then. And or the girls that had retired and came back out of retirement, they would automatically be in MILFs, but nobody wanted to be a MILF back then. And then the fact that I didn't look my age, they would ID me when I came on set, just more or less than seeing that they wanted to make sure I was 30. Okay. And then I had braces. So I was like, this girl doesn't look like she's a MILF,
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting that they would try to typecast you like that from the beginning, even with braces. But I guess, when you throw the age factor into it, which is, one of those things where people are like, wow, you obviously got into it, I guess, later in life than most people would conceive of that. Do you see that being a more common story now than maybe when you first started 14 years ago? Or is that something you've just kind of always seen in the industry, is the varying ages and levels?
No, most of them are like younger and stuff like that. They might be 22, 23, 24. And yeah, I did start older and I should have got my shit together like in a real life. But I didn't. Can't go back. Can't fix that. But I kind of developed a little later than, like I was more, I just wasn't fully knowledgeable, and I always was in a long-term relationship. I'm that girl. So I just wasn't always like, once I started like being a stripper, and then when I was like doing sex scenes, I was like, wow, this is fun. I never had a threesome until I was doing one on screen, but I wanted to have a threesome. I wanted to try it out, but sometimes you're just never like drunk at the right time. Yeah, so I try. So the threesomes and everything, and I started late, and it seems like a lot of women that are later are like kind of swingers, I guess, because they're comfortable with their partner. It's harder as you get older because like people pair up and they're married or divorced. But I mean, I don't know what everybody's story is because I don't really ask them, but I always get the feeling that they're just either they always wanted to try it and they are in between jobs right now, or they were a cam girl and they wanted to, a lot of people just want to try it. They've always thought that they could do it, and they don't realize the hours they have to be put in. They don't seem like a lot of people, they stick around very long, but it takes, you're on set sometimes for not as, they don't make big productions like they used to with the big checks, but it's you're on set from 4 to 6 hours to all the way. I've been on set from 9 a.m. till 4 a.m. There's a lot of sitting around, and you're not getting paid per the hour. You're getting paid per scene. So whether or not you're out in 4 hours or you're out in 20.
Yeah.
And there are numerous days. There's like, okay, you have to, with these big productions like Wicked or some of these other ones, you're there numerous days.
And that will, definitely take a huge toll on you. And that, we people have talked about mainstream acting and how arduous how arduous it is to be on set. And you have to be very physically ready to handle that, especially because you could be in any kind of scenario. I mean, I'm sure it's not always the most temperate of scenarios, although I'd hope at least on most of the sets they aim to make it, where you're not freezing over there in the corner with goosebumps and stuff.
You do.
So how do you help keep the physical health aspect up for yourself so that you can perform and that you aren't worn out, we'll say, like at the end of the day?
Well, I have two things to say. One, they will freeze you, and it's not their problem.
Yeah.
If you're freezing, and sometimes when you're freezing and you're trying to have sex either outside, because I've been wearing Uggs, I've been wearing tiny skirts, and I'm freezing, and you're bent over doing doggy or whatever, and you freeze, and your whole body clenches up and pushes the dick out. So it kind of makes it hard. You're like, I'm trying to have sex. I want to get this over with. You're trying to talk with this director, or it's, people like, think about it. If they're filming in Vegas right now, it's probably 100 degrees. And some of them are outside. And when even indoors, they turn off everything. Like they might even turn off a refrigerator because of the humming noise for recording.
Microphones are so sensitive.
And so it's hot. They have no running air, and that sweat is sometimes not sex. It's you're having sex on a plastic couch, a pleather couch with no air conditioning, and you have a hot body, and the lights. It's hot, and sometimes it's cold, and I've had sex on a rolling bar table that you're trying to like grasp yourself as you're or getting nailed, and you're trying to like you have to be physically a bit like over, you can't just lay there. So
No.
you just like, you always learn to like keep your eyes open. You have to be like posed to make sure that your boobs are seen and that you're not blocking, the camera can get in there and block, the penetration, or, so you're just used to like head up and like, and then you have to keep on saying words. And those were fun, trying to learn like words, because I was like, what do I say during sex? Like, oh, that feels good. Of course, but you're just learning. You have to be like, an agent explained to me that you always have to say like, and like if you put those words and those nouns and those verbs together, and you always say them, then you'll be able to, or just say the one word. It's like that's sex words, so you can always say that. But the physical aspect of it, a lot of people work out a lot because you're naked. It's like when I have friends or neighbors that are like, wow, you're in such great shape. I'm 43 years old, so yeah, I'm pretty much in good shape. I mean, I'm not perfect, and I try to like not be like anorexic or neurotic, but try being naked. It's a great diet.
It's one of those things. Make sure you've got your windows covered just in case you have those weird neighbors. But yeah, I mean, looking at yourself in the mirror. Yeah, I was gonna say.
I live in Hollywood, so
yeah. Well, you're looking at 2020. I imagine right now. Okay, so for future people watching this out there, 2020, we're in the middle of the COVID crisis. So while we're not in the middle of full-on lockdowns in a lot of areas, there are a lot of us who haven't been working in the same areas or spheres that we might normally be in. A lot of us haven't been around groups of people for quite some time. How does it look how are productions out there right now? Are people doing much in person, or is it mostly online, or?
The production companies have opened up and their people are shooting, but you would communicate to your agent, or if you're independent, you would communicate. If they contact you, you say what you're comfortable with. I'm only comfortable doing solos, or I'm only comfortable with these people, these specific people, or you're only doing it with a spouse or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever. These, like I said, like a small group, because people are still recording, like even for my fans, and I haven't gone back to set. I haven't told my agent I'm okay with it. But I do my OnlyFans and stuff like that, where I do need somebody. So I do have a friend, like I have a buddy that occasionally I will utilize. I'm like, come over, I need a blowjob scene.
Yeah, I'm sure he's like, props are great.
Yeah. But with these, like, you have a lot of meetings that are like Zoom, or, where they have the webcam, and I have webcam happy hour with my girlfriends. We're all on cams, and we just, not even like, not sex, but I mean, just like people are drinking on the camera together so they could be together. But they're going back to filming, but the system that we were using is called PASS, PASS, like it stands it's an acronym. Mm-hmm. I can't remember what it stands for, but the point is that we test, and the testing places communicate in a generalized computer system that says we've tested within the 15 days that before our shoot, and so we are healthy. We don't have any diseases or precautions that anybody needs to be notified about. But they're now trying to figure out what to do about the COVID, because it's not just performers that could pass the, it's also the production company. So the production company needs to be tested every day. And then are we supposed to be testing? Do we have to pay? Who's going to pay our testing every day to get tested? Like, we basically almost have to get off set, go test, and then the test still takes 2 days. So within those 2 days, did we get COVID, did I go to the grocery store and get COVID? So it's kind of wacky. Are you willing to risk it? But I think a lot of us in our industry, and I'm saying a lot, that people who take it professional, because you get people who don't really understand how much it takes on your body to take, all these things when they're fresh, is you have to take vitamins. You have to stay healthy. You're making out with people, you're sharing bodily sweat, you're sharing very tight quarters with people. And so you're always having to make sure that you're healthy. And, you have to communicate to your agents that you're not feeling good and you need to like cut out, or you need maybe to be quarantined for 14 days, or to notify other people that you had worked with. And that's the same thing that went with gonorrhea or chlamydia. You kind of like, hey, I don't know where I got it, but I have it, and I haven't been with anybody offset. So these are the last people I did, and the system kind of notifies other people. Or you find out with a test result, you're like, I'm not working, I guess. But I remember when I first started, I didn't feel good or whatever, like nothing to do with any diseases or anything like that. But maybe I had a cold, I had a sinus infection or something, and they used to make you go to set anyways. They're like, chalk it up, go take a Vicodin or go take a whatever, Tylenol, whatever, just do your scene. But nowadays they're just like, no, you stay home, we'll get somebody else.
Yeah, it's no longer the show must go on. Now it's like, let's make sure we can have this as a going thing, without killing anybody in the process.
Yeah.
Have you had much opportunity to work with many female directors versus male directors, or do you find it's overwhelmingly male?
It's mostly male, but you get a couple. You get Holly Randall. She's great. You get a couple other ones that work for big productions, and they always seem to be really good. They have an eye for things. Maybe it's how women just are like softer, or they like the things that are important. Like guys, I don't. From what I get from most males, or like the guys that maybe I come in contact with, they're more of like not gonzo, but they like the light types of scenes. Like they either like interracial or they don't. They like anal, maybe they like the MILFs, they like big boobs. They like a genre. They may not like a specific how the scene is going. And I feel that sometimes the women may have it a little bit more dramatic. They might have more costumes. So they're detailed. And I like the detail, but there aren't many. And there's been some in the past, because I've seen many, and some of them are just, so it's like, you have a few, but some of them are like, you want to put them on your no list. Like, no, I'm not going to work with that woman again. She was just a bitch to me. One wouldn't let me pee. I was just like, give me a break.
It's like, yeah. And like, of all the people that should not, that should be empathetic, it should be, a female, because we all know, it doesn't matter where you are in work. Nature does not there's not a huge pause button for that.
Oh.
So thinking back into when you were filming, what was one of your favorite sets to be on? And what made it stand out from others, like in terms of like safety or comfort or the consideration of the crew as a whole?
Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for that, because I've done so many. I don't have a favorite. I've just mostly done like a lot of gonzo and like a lot of, I don't know, just a lot of random ones. Maybe it's just like I've worked for, some of the big production companies are fun. Because they have food and they have food. They have wardrobe and stuff like that. The more wardrobe and makeup and like food, like those are fun places to be on. They're more like, they might have like 4 different scenes in one day, and like they're in a big house. So you get to see other people. You're not just like, come makeup ready, and they're like, let me see your suitcase, meaning your clothing, what you brought for possible outfits. And you bring your own clothes, so they're going to be gross afterwards. But the more dramatic, the more upscale it is, it's more fun. And you get to see other friends on sets that day and like, hey, haven't seen you forever. And it feels like, we've people that have been in the industry for a while, or, if you shoot often, it's like a family. Like you work with the same coworkers often. You're like, oh, I know this guy. And I know it's kind of like off the topic or something like that, but guys' heads in porn, if you ever watch them, they're cut off. Like they don't see them very often. You don't know what guys they are. So if you're around other girls and you're watching porn, you're like trying to decipher who that guy is. You're like either by like
by size or angle or
or like thumbprints. Nobody has the same. And so you're trying to figure out by the or the tattoos or like how skinny their body type or something like that. You're trying to like, oh, I think that's so-and-so. No, that's so-and-so, it's so funny. So when you get to see when you're around other girls, it's kind of like, it's fun. Or you see other guys, you're like, oh, hey, or hey. And so it's fun.
It's like, I recognize that freckle.
I don't at this moment in time, I don't have a specific scene that was my favorite. So unfortunately I cannot answer that. They're all my favorite.
Yay. See, there we go, everybody. Yeah. So then let's flip that ideal. Was there ever a set or a situation that you went into that you left, or maybe, you realized when you got there that it was just not something you wanted to be part of?
Yeah, I had an agent, and this was in the very beginning. This was my second agency. Like it's an agency that's not even around anymore, but they had booked me and I just didn't feel comfortable with the booking. And it was with this guy, and I went and it was at a hotel. And I get there, I was just like, you just had a weird feeling about this. And I go and I knock on the room, and there was only one guy there. And I was like, what's going on? Like, he had a camera, and it was like some private video. And I was like, what the fuck? I went back to my agent and like, what the fuck did you just book me for? And he's like, oh no, this is what they were. And this is starting to be like amateur. This was the beginning of the amateur stuff. And like where they would be, they started doing stuff like that. But I really like most agencies will only book if they're a professional company and that they're licensed and insured. They won't just, that'd be like Mike off the street can just call an agency and like, hey, it's almost like, who's available? Like, is this hot chick? Because I want to fuck her and I have a camera. That's when you're running into problems. So then it started being where in order to be a company that they would book, you have to be a production company. You have to show credentials. You have to show they're licensed and insured. Like the agencies won't work with them because like, what if something happens, like it's still OSHA, you got to think about things like that. If I were to catch something, like, can I blame somebody? Because if they're licensed or insured, if I were to catch something on a set, like I could possibly sue them, or they're responsible for me because it's a job. It's kind of like any other job, not any other job, but working for a company, you still like are insured and they're responsible for your well-being.
Well, yeah, they're in the ideal scheme of things. There's standards and there are protections that are put in place to protect you.
Yeah.
And thinking in terms of that, a lot of the industries that the organizations that you've mentioned that oversee testing or oversee, we'll say like production certification, is there a national agency that kind of umbrellas over that, or do you find that it varies a lot by state?
No, it's all one. It's I can't remember, but they take care of the pass. Now there's kind of a union that fights for us, and like Alana Evans does it, and she's awesome. But there's a company, I can't remember what it is. I have to look at my emails, but they oversee it, and because pass wasn't. The company had stepped down from being in the past part of that because they didn't want to have to deal with the whole COVID situation, because they don't want to be held responsible if somebody were to catch COVID.
Right.
So they have stepped away from past. And so right now we're in I really can't say, because I don't deal with it very much because I'm not really shooting. But finding how they're going to deal with the COVID situation. Like right now, they're still taking tests. Usually, and it's, that you do the regular, and I don't know how they are doing the COVID testing, if you have to go to a separate agency for that. But there is sort of that one for HIV and gonorrhea, syphilis, all those, like an umbrella, and they make sure that it's running fine, but it should be an automatic. And then the agencies, they also are able to pull up if you have a positive. They don't see your health records, but you get a positive, or you get a negative, you've been negative for anything, and you're able to proceed. They get that you're able to, like a check. You get they're cleared. And then the production companies, they get the forward, or they could probably go in and see that you've been cleared. So it's not there was a problem in the past where you could find out people's health records as the public, and there was a lawsuit because, the health, you're not allowed to see files and stuff. And since it was a public thing to see, like, hey, anybody could go on and see like my information, that I was cleared. And that's nobody's business to find out like that I'm a performer and that if I have HIV. So
yes. You had mentioned how you have an OnlyFans, which is one of just the latest in ways for adult entertainers, or really, I think OnlyFans is kind of a very broad platform, but it is one that is very welcoming to the adult entertainment industry. But there are others that are out there, and we've seen a huge surge in the camming industry. And you said, you do a lot of your own filming and broadcasting from home as well for your online endeavors. And how do you see that progressing for you over the future times, since we're, in such, is it something that you're putting more of a focus on, or is it something that you're just kind of treading water with while you're waiting for production to come back on?
Yeah. Well, okay. So this might be a long-winded answer, like all my other answers. I used to have a website.
About to say, we want information. Come on now.
Yeah, I had this website, and it was mine. It was all my scenes, and what you shoot is content, and you share that with who's ever filming. If it's just two people, like you and the other actor, then only you two share. So you each get a copy, and so I would always put it on my website. And I wasn't getting any money, but I was using as a platform to showcase my talent or to keep my name in the game. And the good thing about OnlyFans and stuff like that, because I had to take down my website because I wasn't getting any money, and somebody brought it to my attention that I should put it. You create your own account with say Pornhub or ManyVids or any of these other ones, and you can upload those same sites and get paid. So it's kind of good because you're seeing a surge in where we are taking, it's our money. We put forth our energies. And so we need to see more money. And, with all this people stealing our stuff, they don't realize that you're basically stealing from us. Like, they're when people are like, oh, where can I see your stuff? And I'm like, on my OnlyFans. No, they want to, what they'll say is, no, I mean, where can I see your stuff for free? What? Free?
Yeah.
Do I go on the street and have sex? So if you think of it like that, like all you people who are like watching free porn, you're stealing money. So unless you want to go, like, if you go on the radio, you hear it free, but you're listening to advertisements. So,
right.
But being that it's on, on the internet, people still think that it's cool and it's like normal to be seeing it for free. And maybe they only see like a little bit. And so when I do trailers for some of my movies for like, say, YouTube, or not YouTube, but for Pornhub or something like that, you cut your movie down to like 30 seconds. So guys aren't getting too much of a visual unless they just want to put in their spank bank within those 30 seconds. But you try to draw them into paying. So and sometimes, so when you're doing content with another person, you're trying to be the first one to edit it and get it up on set or on the uploaded, so you can be the person who gets most of the money. But it's nice to me to have like OnlyFans. It's just funny that that's where most of everything is going right now.
It's really opened up a lot of, like you said, a lot more control. There's been a lot more platforms for entertainers in general that have allowed us, because even for me as a DJ, like I have Patreon, and that's another one of those ones that you can put basically behind a paywall of sorts, but people get, cool and interesting things for being a dedicated part of your community. So no longer do they have to reach out to your production company or your agent or, anything like that. They can reach out directly to you. So, of course, none of us have, concrete plans for sure, I guess, really for the next 6 months to, at least 6 months, year and a half. Who knows how long we're going to be dealing with the waves from COVID. But what do you see for yourself? Do you have any projects coming up that you already have on the books that you know for sure, or are you just kind of winging it from here for this year?
I don't really have anything on the books because it was just with COVID. So I've just been working on my OnlyFans and just doing stuff like that. And I got back a lot of my movies from my website. I had 150 movies that are not by another company; they're mine.
Oh,
and
wow.
Off the website, and luckily I was able to get them back because a lot of girls, they don't get their stuff back. They have a copy, but it remains on the website because the networking people are kind of buttholes. And buttholes is a nice way of saying that.
Yeah.
But I've been re-editing them and trying to put them back up on mini vids or all these different platforms that you can sell, and you can recut them up and you can do whatever because they're yours. So I've been doing that and working on with editing, and we're like learning Photoshop. You remember using Photoshop a long time ago, but I after having all these people do them, I've forgotten how to do them, and now I'm like taking everything, putting it back in my hands.
Back in your control. Yeah, I think there's a lot of us who are learning a lot of skills that maybe we dabbled in before, but now it's become more of a necessity, because when you have a library of 150 films, no matter how short they are, if you had to pay somebody else to do all that editing for you, it would get really expensive really fast.
Yeah. People ask me, they're like, why don't you just hire somebody? I'm like, well, it's not like anybody's paying for these movies. So what kind of what kind of money am I getting or getting to do that, to have them, luckily agents are paid in like so they only get paid when they do work, but they're only getting 10%. Right. Now editing might, you might get you might get 5 out of that movie, but trying to pay somebody like $50 to edit, and it's just they deserve all the money they get. I just don't have all the money and the energy to chase that, to give that to them. So I just have to take it in my hands, and it's just time consuming. So when we were specifically in a lockdown for, how long were we locked down? It sounds like a jail.
I'm about to say, depends where you live, because you're in California, I'm in Georgia. We were one of the last ones to close and we're the first ones to open. So
we got locked down at March 20th.
Okay.
So whenever we got unlocked, but I sat at the coffee table every day and not the coffee table, my kitchen table. So I just sat at my kitchen table and I just edited every day. There was nothing else to do. Literally nothing to do.
You finally find yourself looking at that list and going, all the things that I said I was going to do if I ever had time, It's like, now you have the time.
Like you literally, all this stuff, you're like kicking yourself because you're like, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow. And you're like running out of tomorrows because you're like, I don't know. Like, what are you going to do? Learn how to French braid your hair? So.
Oh, no, I can't. I tried. I'm really, really bad at that. So do you have any merchandise, or do you mostly work just with video sales, or do you have any kind of, things that people can get for Claudia Valentine? Yeah.
No, I used to have DVDs and stuff. I'm just at the tail end of my end of my journey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at where I can go in the horizon, and so the merchandise that I've had or the things that people like offer me, I just don't really do because I don't see the long term. Like if somebody came to me and said they wanted to clone my pussy and I have a fleshlight, like that would be great. But I don't know if me putting all that energy into selling a couple fleshlights, and there's so many bigger names out there, it's hard to like. That's great, and I'm glad you're asking me, but I just don't. That's what I kind of say to them. And I've had skateboards, I've had shirts. I wish I still had a skateboard. So anybody who wants to make me a skateboard with my picture on, it'd be great. Yeah, that would be awesome. But I can't even hang it in my house because my parents come over and I'm like, they know who I am. But my dad was in my bookcase one day looking for a book to read, and he came, and I think I had DVDs sitting out, and I quickly just put them in the bookcase to make them look like books. And I'm sleeping one morning and he's like, "Oh, nice book." And I looked at it and I was like, "Dad, I'm sorry."
No.
Not that I'm sorry. I'm just sorry that you have to see it. Like, he knows what I do, but just sorry that he has to be like his daughter.
Everybody's somebody's kid,
Yeah. It's just like, it's like you're talking to your dad. You're like, "Dad, I'm just having a one night stand or something." They don't want to know, like, love it. My daughter doesn't have sex. No.
She's still a virgin. I never saw this. Well, okay, so knowing that we only have you left for a limited time only, because I know there is there's many, you've done so much and such, I mean, really, technically speaking, if you think about it, yeah, I mean, you've been doing this for 14 years and you've really done a lot. And, it's one of those things where you realize the longer you're in a situation sometimes that maybe there's just more for whatever reason, other areas and levels you want to explore. But while you're putting all those pieces in place, we still obviously get to enjoy more of the Claudia Valentine experience. So right now you're on OnlyFans. Is that your primary portal that you direct people to, or do you have other platforms that people can follow you on?
Yeah, you can watch me on Instagram. It's right now, hopefully I don't lose it because I've lost it before. It's ClaudiaVXOXO. That's Instagram. And then Twitter, it's Claudia Valentine, but I'm missing the E because my name is too long. So it's Claudia Valentin. People always think that that's my real name. And then there's Snapchat where it's Be My Heart, BE My Heart, I think it is. And I communicate with most of my fans. Like I don't communicate like have like friendships and like long-winded conversations like, "Hey, I had enchiladas for lunch," but I do try to communicate and just say hi or thanks. I appreciate the love to people. So if you go to my Snapchat or my Instagram and you message me, I'm more than appreciative. Like, a lot of girls don't talk to their fans unless it's paid, and it's hard. You have to appreciate your fans, but at the same time you have to draw that line. So I tend to be a little lenient, but if you like demand too much out of me, then you will be cut off. I'm not that easily approachable, but I am approachable. Like, I will say thank you and I appreciate the love. So those are my social medias. I go on tour, and I do meet my fans. And right now, COVID, it's kind of hard to figure out where to go from here.
Yeah.
Maybe I go back east. I'm thinking, and it's September, or not September, like August 2020. I just me here being alive. Not like one day at a time, but it kind of is. Yeah, it's I mean, I've retired a couple times, or said I was going to retire, and I've had other jobs, and I just I come back because it's easy and I need to pay the bills. It's not as easy when you have a lot of people out there competing for the same job. So it's like, do I go and get my master's now? Like, so I am here. I'm here now. I'm great. I like the work I do. I'm intense. I'm known for my deep throating skills because I can do that very well. So I just try to be the best me that I am able to be. I guess be you, be me. Yes. So
I know. I think that's great, and I think that's a great line to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and let you go for now because I realize that I love talking to people and I will keep you talking all day long. But I feel like I'd really like to come back and revisit with you again in a couple months and see how things have developed for you in the meantime, if you're open for it. But again, let's run through your social media handles one more time for everybody so everybody can come and find you.
Let me make sure I have my Snapchat one.
Okay. And I'm going to put these on the screen too.
It's not, I think I've had numerous ones. Oh, it's Claudia My Heart. Okay, so my Snapchat is Claudia My Heart. My Instagram is ClaudiaVXOXO. Twitter, Claudia Valentine, but without the E, so it's Claudia Valentin. My OnlyFans is whatchamacallit, is onlyfans.com/Claudia Valentine. I got two more. Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
You can also, where is that one? I also do sext Panther, which is weird. I don't know if you've ever heard of those, or verified call. So what they are also doing really short is that you could call me. I'm verified, and I'd actually talk to you. So it's a paid phone call, and it goes right to my phone. And I got a phone call from Dubai at 4 a.m. and I tried to be and you try to do the sexy talk and stuff like that. And it was 4 a.m. Please don't do that. And then so they have, that is Sex Panthers is, oh, not Sex Panther. Sex Panthers is /Claudia-Valentine. And then there's verified call, which they do the calls. And the Sex Panthers also the text messages and texts. And so that's verified call /profiles/Claudia Valentine. So you got all that, write it down, call me.
Yes, find her online, support her shows, check out the archives and check out the newer stuff.
Yeah, so buy your porn, or at least I think it's only $9.99. Sometimes I have for OnlyFans, I have little promos where it's $5.99. It goes to us. So, and it's not a lot of money. So it's only by the month. Just chalk it up,
Well, I'm going to wish you all the luck that I can think of possibly wishing you over this next several months. Like I said, this whole 2020 situation has changed the landscape for a lot of us, and it's great to hear that you've been, staying innovative and staying connected to your fans. So we've got all the ways we need to find you as well. And I'm just going to say thank you so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope that there's a lot of people out here that'll get a lot of this out, some extra information out of this.
Oh, sounds great. Thank you. I really had fun doing this interview. So hope to see you again.
All right. So we're going to do a little bye-bye.
Come explore the No Strings Attached e-News online magazine. Our global array of authors inspire, delight, and educate with practical and entertaining articles. And with Focus On, we help producers of film, web series, and other video content attract a wider audience. Plus, your project can stream on Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, and more with our media partners E360 TV and NETV. No Strings Attached e-News, focusing on human interest. Advertising available, nsaen.com.